نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. From the symbols of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are symbols of Islam. And in the past, throughout our history, these masajid have represented the beauty of Islam, the spirituality of Islam, also the unity of the Muslims. Because for men, the place to pray whenever it is possible is the house of Allah, it's the masjid. So many virtues were given in the Quran and in hadith about the masjid. However, whenever people started undermining the importance of the house of Allah, in fact, this applies to every ni'mah of Allah. Whenever people undermine its importance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes it away in a very harsh way. Like when Bani Israel undermined the importance of their prophets and their scriptures, their holy scriptures. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took everything away from them. That Masjid Al-Aqsa that they had worked to get to so hard, it was taken away from them, and they were not just asked to leave, they were attacked. On us was just writing. And so those masajid were populated. Those were the glorious days of those masjids. Then a time came when the actions of the Muslims declined. People were not so attentive about salat, about populating the house of Allah, about fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When this started happening, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala imposed such people on them who had no mercy. So after that time, there was the reign of a man by the name of Genghis Khan. And he started from the Mongolian steppes and he made his way, he conquered tribes, and his power, influence began to spread. And suddenly he developed a vision for conquering the whole world. And he did conquer large areas in his lifetime, but he didn't conquer the whole world in his life. So his progeny carried out this work. So these people they had their own way. They were very different from everyone. They didn't really have any organized religion. They believed in spirits, and some narrations mention that they used to turn towards the sun once a day, and that would be their worship. But they were savages when it came to going to other lands and taking what they wanted. So, at one occasion, one of the grandsons of Genghis Khan, Hulagu Khan, or Hulagu Khan, he sent some traders, some merchants, to go and conduct trade with the Muslim state that was nearby at Khwarizm. A delegation of probably 5 or 7 merchants, very, very expensive horses, and very fine things. So it was an offering of conducting trade, to enter into a trade agreement, and so on and so forth. What the ruler of that area, the governor of that area did, was he had all of the merchants killed, which was really a senseless thing to do, but he killed them all and he took all the stuff. Or someone under his command did that. So Hulagu Khan said that I need this to be addressed. I need retribution for the people that are guilty. There has to be some kind of a consequence. And all of the merchandise that was sent needs to be returned. So that Muslim governor said, no, I don't care. I'm not taking any action, and we're not giving your stuff back. Now this really did not make sense from a worldly perspective, from a religious perspective. It's completely wrong. So it drove Hulagu Khan into a rage. He went into a blind rage. They were already so savage in their ways when they were going and fighting and doing those things. But this was a whole different level. And some narrations mention that he went on top of a hill and he prayed and prayed and prayed, and he took an oath that I will not stop shedding the blood of the Muslims until their blood flows through the streets, and there is so much blood, there are rivers of their blood flowing until it reaches the back of my horse. That's how much blood I'm going to shed. And he launched his assault. And he began with these areas. This area of Khwarizm, Samarkand, Bukhara, Tashkent, all of this area which is in modern day Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, in that area. So what he would do is, very often he would attack right before Jummah Salat. Right, he knows that all the Muslims are going to be congregated in the masjid, and he would rush in, surround the mosque, have the doors closed, barred, and then butcher everyone in the masjid, in the closed masjid. And then he would sit on the mimbar himself and he would say, "O Muslims, your Lord has imposed me over you because of your own actions." So those same masajid, there were such intricate systems of learning in place. Like we talk about schools and madrasas and maktabs. They used to have these long desks, like you have those little mini desks at the back. They used to have long, long desks made from a single tree, massive tree, hundreds of feet long. And hundreds of students would sit on that one desk. It was made out of one solid piece of wood. All of this was destroyed. And then they turned those masjids into one of two things. Either they turned them into stables for their horses, so they just parked their horses in there and the masjids got all soiled and filthy from their horses, or they used them as granaries. They used them as stock houses to hold grain. And those masajid that were not just echoing with the adhan or with salat, but also with the teachings of Rasulullah ﷺ day and night, those masjids were laid to waste, complete waste. And like this, they spread like a plague across the land, doing this wherever they went. And all of this reached its climax eventually many, many years later at Baghdad, when they sacked Baghdad. And their attack on Baghdad was not an ordinary thing. History has not seen anything like it. They first killed all of the nobility, all of the scholars. They tricked them into coming into a tent. We want to meet your intellectual people. We want to meet your talented people. They had them all assembled in a tent, and then they just went in and butchered everyone. And then they killed the masses. And so many lives were lost. So many lives were lost. Some have counted them in the millions. And there was no one to clean up the mess. And the dead bodies just lay in heaps and heaps for weeks. So much so that disease started spreading from those bodies. And disease and plague spread through the winds all the way in Syria. Because of the bacteria and because of the waste that was building up at such levels. So hundreds and hundreds of miles away, disease was spreading. And so what happened to all the knowledge and all the institutes and all the masjids? Everything was destroyed. And the books at that time, Baghdad was the seat of learning for the whole world, for all sciences, including the Islamic sciences and the medical sciences and poetry and philosophy and astronomy, you name it. And all of this was taken and thrown into the rivers. So many books, of course books were written by hand at that time, so many books were thrown that the water of the rivers turned black. And at that time we lost hundreds of thousands of rare books. Many of them, there was only one copy in the world. So when does this happen? This happens when we leave our purpose. It happens when we stop paying attention to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. We take it for granted, or we have no value for it. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla takes it away. When He takes it away, it's very, very rough and harsh. That's why He says in the Quran, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you're grateful, I will continue to increase. I'll give you more and more. And there is no shortage to how much I can give you. وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. But if you act ungratefully, then my punishment is very, very severe. So that has happened to every nation in history, including us, whenever we undermine the importance of deen. I mean, when you open up the books of history and you read through this, I have written the works of many historians, and some of them have written because they were there when this was happening. And he writes, Ibn Kathir rahmatullah alayhi was there for part of this. He says, I am shedding tears as I'm writing this. My eyes cannot stop watering, and my heart is thumping, and I wish I had never been born so that I had to see this day. The wretchedness, the doom, and the destruction, and the widespread just catastrophe that destroyed everything that had been built over centuries. It was just overwhelming. It was hard for them to even put it in words. So look, history repeats itself. Good history repeats itself, and bad history also repeats itself. These are lessons for us, so that we build a foundation for ourselves and for the coming generations, so that that never happens. That never happens in our lives, and we make arrangements so that it doesn't happen after us as well. These are points and moments in history that we must reflect on, and we must take lessons from, and we must become better. May Allah give us tawfiq.